February 9, 1942. It was supposed to be just another day at New York's Pier 88. The usual racket of conversion work. Welders, torches, hammers shouted orders. Nobody could have known they were about to witness the death of a legend. By the next morning, the scene was almost too tragic to comprehend. There she was, the magnificent SS Normandie, capsized in the Hudson River mud. A 1,000-foot-long masterpiece now lying on its side like a wounded animal. Smoke still rising from what had been the most beautiful interiors ever put to sea. Just think about it. One day, she's the pride of France, this incredible floating city of light and art. The next, she's the USS Lafayette, a warship in the making, and then, pre to this, a total loss. And the craziest part? No enemy bomb, no torpedo, just one stupid spark from a welder's torch and a chain reaction of bad decisions. That's what gets me about this story. It wasn't war that killed the Normandie. It was a perfect storm of bureaucracy, rushed work, and plain old human error. The greatest ocean liner ever built, brought down by a $100 mistake. So picture this. It's the 1930s, the middle of the Great Depression. Times are really tough, and money is tight for everyone. But France decides to do something crazy. They spend what would be like $9 billion today to build one single ship, the SS Normandie. This wasn't just about carrying passengers. This ship had a bigger job. It was supposed to be a floating billboard for France, a way to show off to the world, and especially to rich Americans, that France was still a leader in art and engineering. The ship was unbelievably big. It was over 1,000 feet long, almost as long as the Eiffel Tower is tall. But the real secret was its shape. A Russian engineer named Vladimir Yurkovich designed a special hull with a round, bulb-like front under the water. This weird shape helped the water flow around the ship so smoothly that this giant vessel could be the fastest ship in the world. The British ship company Cunard apparently thought this design was too weird and rejected it. Big mistake. It later became the standard for all big ships. Above the water, the ship looked just as amazing. It had a sleek, modern look. The smokestacks were tilted back, and all the clutter was hidden away to make the deck clean and smooth. Its famous look was captured in a poster by an artist named Cassandra, which itself became a famous piece of art. So even before anyone saw the inside, the Normandie was sending a message. It was more than a ship. It was a symbol of the future, fast, modern, and full of hope. They nicknamed it the Ship of Light, hinting at the amazing interiors still to be revealed. Now they had to fill this amazing ship, so the French line hired the absolute best artists and designers of the time, the rock stars of the Art Deco style. They gave them a blank check and told them to go wild. The result wasn't just a ship with nice decorations. The entire thing was a moving work of art. The main dining room for first-class passengers was unbelievable. It wasn't just a room, it was longer than the famous Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles. The ceiling was held up by 12 huge pillars and dozens of columns, all made of glowing lalique glass that was lit from within. This light shone on huge carved bronze walls and gold leaf designs. Using electric light as a core part of the room's design was a new idea, and it gave the whole space a magical, dreamlike glow. From there, passengers could go to the Grand Salon, a massive room with ceilings 3 stories high. It had gigantic 20-foot-tall doors made of bronze and huge painted glass murals showing scenes of ships and the sea. If you wanted to relax, you could swim in a gorgeous indoor pool, see a show in the first-ever theater on a ship, or stay in one of the incredible private apartments. The fanciest suites, with names like Deauville, had their own private dining room and even a baby grand piano. Every single thing on the ship, right down to the silver tea sets, was chosen by top designers. As one historian put it, the people who built the Normandie were aiming for perfection. And then, it seems like they tried to go one step beyond even that. On its first trip across the Atlantic in May 1935, the Normandie proved it was the fastest ship in the world, winning a famous prize called the Blue Riband. It became an instant celebrity, carrying famous people like the dancer Fred Astaire, the artist Salvador Dalí, and the real-life Von Trapp family. It also started a huge rivalry with a British ship called the RMS Queen Mary. The two ships were constantly competing to see which was faster, trading the speed record back and forth in a very public race. But the Normandie had a big problem. The designers had focused so much on making the first-class areas unbelievably luxurious that the ship felt exclusive and intimidating. Out of its 975 passengers, 848 were in first class. Even though it had cheaper tickets, everyone saw it as a ship only for the super rich. This was a bad business move during the Great Depression, when most people didn't have much money. The rival Queen Mary was more popular because it offered great comfort for all its passengers, not just the wealthy ones. The Normandie often sailed half empty, which was a major financial failure for a ship that was supposed to be a proud moneymaker for France. In September 1939, when Germany invaded Poland and started World War II, the Normandie was lucky to be safely in New York Harbor. The United States, which was neutral at the time, wouldn't let the ship leave. They were afraid it could be captured by the enemy. So for more than 2 years, the Normandie just sat there at Pier 88. It was a silent, empty ghost ship. Its lights were off, and its beautiful halls were deserted. Its only neighbors were other famous liners, the British Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, which were also stuck there. The magnificent Ship of Light was now completely dark, a sad reminder that peace was over. This all changed on December 7, 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America was now in the war. The US Navy immediately took control of the Normandie. As a sign of respect to France, America's oldest ally, they renamed the ship the USS Lafayette. Then, the big job began. Workers rushed to tear out all the luxurious furniture, art, and decorations. They had to transform the floating palace into a plain, practical troop carrier for 15,000 soldiers. It was a huge and complicated task, and they were in a big hurry. The work to convert the ship was rushed and messy. Over 2,000 workers were crammed inside, with different teams often getting in each other's way. Worst of all, in the middle of all this dangerous work, the ship's fancy fire alarm system and automatic sprinklers had been turned off. Then, on the afternoon of February 9, 1942, disaster struck. A worker was using a welding torch in the huge first-class lounge. The sparks from his torch were supposed to land on a fireproof cloth. But one single spark got away. It landed on a pile of life jackets stuffed with kapok, a material that catches fire very easily. The life jackets instantly went up in flames. The fire spread incredibly fast, burning the wood and varnish that hadn't been removed yet. People sounded the alarm, but the rescue effort was a complete failure. The ship's own water system didn't work. When the New York firefighters arrived, their hoses didn't fit the ship's French-style water outlets. They lost precious time having to run hoses all the way from the dock. Fireboats shot giant streams of water onto the burning ship. All that water had nowhere to drain. Thousands of tons of it piled up on the top decks, making the ship dangerously top-heavy. The ship's original designer, Vladimir Yorkovich, actually came to the scene. He begged the Navy to let him flood the lower part of the ship, which would have made it settle straight down in the water. They ignored him. Then, at 2:45 in the morning on February 10th, with a terrible groaning sound, the USS Lafayette slowly tipped over onto its side in the mud of the Hudson River. One of the most beautiful things humans had ever built was destroyed because of a single, cheap welding spark. After the fire, the government spent a then massive $3.75 million over 17 months just to roll the ship upright. But the damage from the fire and the dirty river water was just too much. In the middle of a world war, fixing her was seen as impossible. So, in 1946, what was left of the ship was sold for just $161,000. It was towed to a scrapyard in New Jersey and chopped up for metal. The physical Normandie was gone, melted down to be used in other American products. But in a way, the ship's soul was saved. Luckily, most of its incredible artwork, the glass columns, the painted murals, the bronze doors, had been taken off the ship before the fire started. And the brilliant design of its hull became the model for almost every large ship that came after it. So while the Normandie itself is gone, its legacy lives on. It remains a powerful story of what humans can create with big dreams, and how easily that beauty can be lost through simple mistakes. The story of the Normandie is about more than just a ship sinking. It really marks the end of an era. The Art Deco age was all about glamour, optimism, and modern beauty. The Normandie was the greatest example of this, but its glamour couldn't survive the ugly reality of a world at war. It was built to be a floating piece of France, designed to show off the best of its art and engineering to the whole world. But in the end, it wasn't destroyed by an enemy bomb. It was destroyed by paperwork mix-ups, rushing, and stupid mistakes that could have been prevented. The country that took the ship to keep it safe from its enemies ended up being the one who accidentally destroyed it.